There could be another 9/11 and a lot worse if action is not taken against the Islamic State. That's the warning from the former Chief of the Defence Staff, Lord Richards, during an exclusive interview with British Forces News in Germany. He also warned that Russia needs to do its part, despite what's going on in Ukraine. Rob Olver started by asking him if he thought the Middle East would be facing the current violence if his advice on Syria had been followed to arm the rebels.
I think the Islamic State and other Muslim extremist organisations are the most dangerous threat the world faces, and I'm including in that definition of the world a lot of very fine Muslim states. So this isn't a Western versus Eastern or Christian versus Muslim issue. This is the vast majority of the people on this planet who are decent people who don't want to live under the sort of tyranny that the Islamic State offers. So we do have to deal with it, and I know Marty Dempsey very well, and I heard him the other day, and I thought he summarised the requirements of how to deal with it extremely well.
Lord Dannatt, a former Chief of the Army in Britain, has also said that we should obviously deal with this, but in order to do so, we have to join forces with President Assad.
Well, I think what we're all saying, and I think everybody's saying this, we haven't yet got it, is that we need a very comprehensive, multi-dimensional strategy involving all sorts of people. My own view is it's not necessary to ally ourselves in some formal sense with President Assad. We may have to work inadvertently in some way with him, but I don't think we need to ally ourselves. And I think General Dannatt was saying that when he said it could be under the counter or over the counter. It didn't really matter. But there may be some short-term marriage of convenience that we tacitly have to agree to. But more importantly is that states generally need to come together to deal with this scourge. It worries me that Russia, who has a huge identity of interest with us in dealing with militant and extremist Muslim organisations, is currently not with us because of what's happening in Ukraine. I think we need to resolve that issue as soon as we can, so that Russia, China, many of the Arab states, obviously Europe and America, Canada, all of us need to come together to devise and then implement, and it will take a generation, as Prime Minister Cameron and others said, to devise a proper, comprehensive strategy that will deal with this thing once and for all. And at the moment we're not doing that well enough. Individual countries are doing a bit of this and a bit of that. What we need is real statesmen now to come forward, real leaders, a spirit of close cooperation, the sort of close cooperation that, as we celebrate NATO's long success shortly in Wales, that those people back in 1947, 48, 49 had when seeking to confront the Soviet Union, who had very expansionist policies. I want to see that sort of vision and leadership, and I think if we get them together and nations get together, then there is a strategy out there that will deal with it and deal with it comprehensively.
You came up, I understand, with a plan a couple of years ago while Chief of the Defence Staff to arm and train civilian Syrian rebels. Do you think that we would face this situation now had that plan been enacted?
I'm bound to say no. The whole point of what I suggested back in 2011 and 2012 was to nip this what has become Islamic State in the bud. There were some very good opposition groups in Syria that were crying out for help. There was already a risk that there were too many extremists in not necessarily their ranks, but within Syria, and we had to be very careful. But if, and I don't think we want to rehearse the detail of it, but if we had done what I had proposed then, my own view is that although it would have taken a year, it was actually outpacing the ability of what's become Islamic State to do what it's now become.
Is there a risk that we could see something similar in Afghanistan?
Well, look, we've seen what's happened in Iraq through inactivity. We've seen what's happening in Syria because we didn't respond quickly and decisively enough. What we can do is prevent Afghanistan from going down the same route. It's really important, and I know that President Obama, Prime Minister Cameron, and all the other leaders going to the NATO summit shortly in Wales will re-emphasise this, but I think we must absolutely hold their toes to the fire on it, that it's not just an issue of doing what we've said we'll do. It's a matter of doing whatever is required to prevent Afghanistan becoming, in a year or two, and it potentially could, however much the Afghan people have so voted demonstratively that they don't want the Taliban, but we really do need to make sure that it doesn't revert to the sort of ungoverned space it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, which led to 9/11. And it's 9/11 and a lot worse that could come our way if we don't start focusing on the Islamic State. And it's really important that the first part of that comprehensive strategy is doing what's right by Afghanistan, so at least we can secure that flank, as we'd say in the military. And we can do it without any shadow of a doubt.